exhibition picture.
We told Pat to let her do her thing, take them out of their game plan. If they go with her, they're dead. If they let her go in 46 like they did, it's all over. 110 3/4, and you can just kiss it goodbye.
That's Oxbow winning the Preakness. That's my high school picture again.
And down the stretch they come. Winning colors in front. Here comes 49er on the outside. Lukas and Stevens. It's a fighting finish. Winning colors by a head. Wire to wire with Gary Stevens in the air.
That's Jeff, my son, Gary. There's a couple of good ones. That's Todd Pletcher. Look how young he is there. The jacket didn't fit, but Taylor really screwed that up. Wow, well, it was fun to see that. Those 4 derbies are every trainer's dream. Ironically, they were my reality.
It's so hard, Wayne, to go through pictures and video because there's so much to choose from.
Well, thank you.
It's you literally are everybody's bucket list.
Well, there's some guys out there that are working at that bucket list a little bit hard. But every time Baffert comes in here, he kind of steals our thunder and takes the money and leaves right away. But it's been a really good run. I don't know that I'm the oldest guy yet, but I'm getting close. I think I might be the oldest one actively returning.
Now, his love and talent of horses moved him from a career in coaching basketball to training quarter horses, which I don't know if many of you know. He actually developed 23 quarter horse champions, 2-time world champion, and AQHA Hall of Famer Dash for Cash, who was a standout.
He revolutionized the breed, really. He was such a brilliant racehorse. People ask me what was the best horse of our 49 world champions. Who was the best we ever trained? It was Dash for Cash. I think he was the only horse I ever trained that I never thought they could beat him. It didn't make any difference. They draw the entries, and I always thought, you guys are in trouble here. I never thought he would lose, and he was just that way. He didn't lose.
And at the urging of his son Jeff, you switched to thoroughbreds full-time in 1978. What exactly did he tell you to make you make that transition?
We were really doing well. We'd moved from Texas to California for the Los Alamitos quarter horse meet, which is the premier meet over there. And we had about 4 or 5, maybe 6 or 7 grade ones, including Dash for Cash in the barn. And Jeff always said to me, Dad, we got to go over to Santa Anita or Hollywood and see what's going on over there. We can beat them over there. And I'd say, geez, we don't want to give up this. It's so, we got a championship stable. He said, Dad, we'll beat them over there just as easy as we beat them here. So we'd go over to Santa Anita, and he'd say, look at this. This is where we need to be. So in 74, we kind of tested the water a little bit, and then 78, I said, hell, let's just go full bore and see what happens. And it turned out really well.
Well is an understatement because 14 classic victories and, as Wayne mentioned, 4 derbies, including one with a filly in 88 winning colors, 20 Breeders' Cup championships, campaigned 3 Horse of the Year, multiple Eclipse Awards as Outstanding Trainer of the Year. Wayne was the first trainer to reach 100 million in earnings, 200 million in earnings, and that guy you mentioned, Todd Pletcher, his protege, was the first to reach 300 million in earnings.
And I don't have any of it.
You'd think he'd get a cut, I'm just saying. Still to this day, he ranks 8th all-time on the Thoroughbred leaderboard with wins at 4,813, 4th all-time Thoroughbred leaderboard in earnings with over 280 million. That's insane.
Good. You know, the one record that's in there, I think all of those will be broken.
It's going to take a while.
Yeah, it might take a while. There's one in there that I think, we'll wait till that goes by. The one record in there of the 14 Triple Crown races we won, the one that I think is going to stand for a long time is we won 6 Triple Crown races in a row. So that means that we did it with multiple horses. Now, my good friend Bob Baffert, he just comes along and does it with one. But we won 6 in a row with multiple horses, but that means you got to win the Triple Crown one year, Triple Crown the next year, and the Kentucky Derby the next year. And I think that'll be difficult.
That's going to be very difficult. He was inducted into National Museum's Racing Hall of Fame in 1999 and the Quarter Horse Hall of Fame in 2007. You're the only person to do that.
Very proud of that. The only guy to be in both. They're not. That's slated a little bit because not many guys would, do it. We did go from quarter horses back to thoroughbreds or back and forth. Baffert was in the quarter horse business, and he would be a likely candidate, but he didn't hang around, I think, in the quarter horse game long enough to maybe get that done. I think he deserves to go in. He had some nice quarter horses, but he'd be the only one probably that would probably jump into that category.
Now, Wayne became the first to do a lot of things in the industry. He set the bar. Numerous articles, books have been written about him, sometimes referenced, and I didn't realize this until I was doing some homework, referenced your methods as unorthodox and controversial. Do you agree or disagree with that?
That's the media. That's fake news. That's fake news. We're not so unorthodox or controversial. You know what happened? We came along and we put white bridles on the horse. Now think about this. We put white bridles on. A, they're stronger, they're nylon. B, they're easier to pick up. In a race, you can spot your horse going down the backside. We used white blinkers. Do you realize that when we come over from the thoroughbreds, some of the old hard boots and traditionalists wrote me letters and said I was turning thoroughbred racing into a circus? Now, if you go out there this afternoon in a 12-horse field, 10 of them will be wearing white bridles.
My husband's one of them, so.
Yeah. I was going to brand all my horses. I got a little cowboy in me, and I made the comment one day to the press. I thought, you know what, I think I'll just brand all my horses. I'd branded my quarter horses. I thought I'll brand my thoroughbreds. Whoa, that didn't go over very big.
Were you joking?
No, I was serious. It's not a hot brand like you see on the John Wayne movie. It's a freeze brand that doesn't hurt them at all. It just kills the pigment, and it's real distinct and easy to do. But I got some letters there that weren't too kind, so I didn't do it.
I love it. So as I mentioned, Wayne was a basketball coach, and I'd like to think that your coaching skills definitely parlayed over to the shed role. You had an amazing team of assistants who have gone on to do amazing things themselves, kind of Team Lukas, and we saw some in the pictures. Todd Pletcher, Kieran McLaughlin, Dallas Stewart, Mark Hennig, Mike Maker, Randy Bradshaw, George Weaver, also Mike Marlowe, Will Van Meter, Tim Austin, and Baz Nickel. And as I mentioned earlier today, Todd Pletcher sent out Cole Front in the Godolphin Mile. And
Got it.
they're doing some amazing things, and that's because of you.
Well, the records you were talking about wouldn't happen without them. I don't know that if I helped them or if they propped me up. I don't know which. They were so damn good and such great young guys with great work ethic that I don't know if they probably were as instrumental in us raking all these records or as I was helping them. I think I gave them a little nudge, and things. I taught them to shine their boots and, shave once in a while and things like that, take a bath. But they were pretty good little horsemen.
But I like that you said in the book, Baz exemplifies everything you'd want in an assistant. He makes my life easier on a daily basis, and at this point in my career, I would not want to train without him.
Or one like him.
Or one like
He
him.
might be listening.
He's back at the barn
Yeah,
busy,
he's back.
I guarantee.
But he's back in the barn doing that very thing. He's covering every base. I don't have to worry. We've got 3 or 4 coming over this afternoon. I know that all the girths will be the right length. I know that everything will be just absolutely perfect. I don't need to worry about it. I've got, by the way, back in the middle over there is my grandson, Brady Lukas, Jeff's my only, and his friend, Kendall Cross, and the real good-looking one right there on the other side there is, I married that one.
Your better half.
You bet. And she's a great horse girl in her own right. She's a judge. She's been judging all over the world for 22 years. She's a very good little horse gal herself. Brady is... he's connected with Air Force One. He's in the Air Force, and he coordinates the missions for Trump whenever he flies anywhere. He doesn't fly, but he makes sure they get there.
Well, speaking of flying, you initially had planned to be halfway across the world this weekend, competing in the $12 million Dubai World Cup with Bravazzo. The 4-year-old, unfortunately had minor knee surgery earlier in the month. What's on the future schedule for Bravazzo?
I don't even want to watch it because I think he could have won it. He's back. He'll be back May 10th. We took out some flakes in his knee. It was just kind of clean it up. We were in a kind of a rock or a hard spot. If we kept going, we could have kept going with him, but maybe in July or August we would find out that it was starting to bother him. So we stopped at this point, cleaned it up, and that'll probably let us make a big push next year. And we're going to put the Dubai World Cup on the schedule next year.
The reason why you and I got together today is because we were filming an interview/acceptance speech for an achievement award that you were receiving in Dubai.
Yeah, I think that's a biggie. I'm not sure, but
They showed it last night.
Yeah, they gave me the Lifetime Achievement Award, the Maktoum World Lifetime Achievement Award. I'm supposed to say it that way, and they presented it because of the time change and everything last night. And Dallas Stewart, my former assistant, picked it up for me, and I haven't seen it yet, but. They say it went over real good. They said your interview was good.
Well, good. That's good to know. We didn't screw it up. That's good.
Yeah, great.
Now, you've said, Wayne, that Oaklawn Park is the best place to prep a 3-year-old because it is similar to Churchill Downs. And we did run 2 divisions of the Rebel a couple of weeks ago. And Market King ran 3rd at 48-1 to Omaha Beach, who is returning to the Arkansas Derby. What can we see next out of Market King?
If Pat Pope won't shoot me, I'm going to run him into bluegrass.
Ooh, you might want to delete
So let's pass over that. Here's the thing. This is absolutely the best place in the world to prep a 3-year-old for a number of reasons. Number one, the purse structure is tremendous, but that is secondary to a lot of the owners. A lot of the owners are not worried at this time of the year about making a lot of money with the horse, believe it or not. They're more interested in getting those points that qualify you for the Kentucky Derby. Now, in the last 2 decades or so, the Kentucky Derby has overfilled all but I think about 2 years. So getting in and actually participating in it is one of the things that you got to be very, very aware of. So what happens is we say it's a Triple Crown or it's a 3-race series. It's not. It's a 5 or 6 race series because you have to have 2 strong races to get the points to absolutely participate in the Kentucky Derby. And people lose sight of that. The other thing is it's unique in itself in that the point system gets you in, but then you run into a really unusual situation. They're going to run further than they ever run before in their life. Most of them, almost all of them, will run over a racetrack that they haven't run over ever before in Churchill Downs. They're shipping in. They will really importantly run in a 20-horse field. That's the fly in the ointment. They are used to running in the Rebel here at 12, maybe the Florida Derby at 14, but none of them have ever experienced a 20-horse field. And you can imagine what that does. That really changes things. Then you add 160,000 people. Most of them had too much to drink. And then you put in a few riders that have never experienced that pageantry and tradition of being out there in my old Kentucky home. And I used to, whenever I'd find out that somebody was new and going to ride their first Kentucky Derby, when they'd be out there in the morning, I'd ride over to them and I'd say, now look, son, I've been here before and don't worry about it. It's just another race. The fact that Jerry Bailey, Gary Stevens, John Velasquez, all these Hall of Famers are all next to you. Don't worry about that. Just ride like you always do. You just feel
and 20 horses, 20 riders being told, just get into good position before the first turn.
Yeah, all of them say everybody's going to be laying just off the pace into the first turn. He rates kindly, but they hit the first turn and they're all over the racetrack. All of mine that did, well, not really. Winning Colors went wire to wire.
So impressive.
But the others had to earn it. You know what's interesting, when I showed that video of Grindstone winning, he beat Cavalier, which was Bob Baffert's horse. Bob and I have talked to that a lot since. Bob said it took him almost 2 years to get over that. He said that he felt that he had finally got a horse in the Derby with a chance to win, and he said that he thought he won it. If you watch the video, the NBC video or ABC, whichever it was, you watch it, his whole crowd is cheering and high-fiving and running down through the hall. And I'm thinking, damn it, it's awful close. Well, I come through the tunnel to get to my horse, and I glanced up, and I thought, wow, the number's not up there yet. All of a sudden, Grindstone number goes up, and we win it. And his entourage is making a U-turn right here.
Call it the Bob Tourage.
Yeah. So, but he told me, he said he thought he would never have another chance. We didn't know he was going to be the best at the Triple Crown that ever lived. But he said it took him 2 years to get over that. And then here he comes with 2 Triple Crown winners in last 2 times.
He's gotten over it by now. So interestingly enough, during last year's Dawn at Oaklawn, you mentioned your book, Sermon on the Mount. Tell us how that came to be.
Well, I say things once in a while. Some of them are
Lucasisms, I like to call them.
Very much.
Wayneisms.
I'll say something, and some of them make sense. Some of them are kind of silly. Like I told Paul the other day, tell your wife you love her every day, otherwise somebody else will. But anyhow, I say things pertaining to training or life in general and so forth. And Lori, my wife, evidently, I didn't realize it, but was jotting them down. One day I was looking around the desk there, and I opened a portfolio, and I said, what are all these things? She said, those are things that you have said, those are quotes. So she had jotted them all down, so I thought, well, she had actually promoted that. She said, we ought to put these in a book. And you can maybe tell the story behind some of them, and some of them are self-explanatory. So we decided to do it, and I selected the title Sermon on the Mount. That picture was taken at Saratoga on the cover I was exercising my dog, and it was raining, and a gal snapped that.
It's an amazing book. Now, there are some amazing photos, amazing stories. Now, how did you, I'm sure there were some excluded. How did you decide what to include and what to leave out?
We left out a lot of stuff we should have included. It's not very, you can read it on your way to work, but it's, we could have included a lot more. As I saw it in final print, I wish I'd have covered this or mentioned that or got into more of some of the things that have happened down through the years. But it's a fun book. It's easy to read.
Now, I love that Jeff, your son, is a big part of the book. And Bob Baffert gets his fair share of page space as well.
Yeah, well, I asked Bob to make some comments on it, and he made such profound, flattering comments. I thought, hell, I might as well print them. He won't ever say them again publicly, so I might as well put them in the book.
Now, some of my personal favorite Lukas-isms, and this is, according to the book, your favorite quote on Baffert: "I don't think he can walk on water, but I think he knows where the rocks are."
That's true.
And if you know Bob, that's very relevant. A yearling should have a head like a princess, a butt like a fry cook, and walk like a hooker. I'm assuming that's maybe at a horse sale.
Yeah. They should have that beautiful head, that butt like a fry cook, and a walk like a hooker.
And I actually was reading the book the other night, and I read this one out loud, and my husband said, "Oh my God, that is absolutely true. The best time to sell a horse is when you don't want to."
Yeah, it was interesting. We were going for our first Kentucky Derby. We thought our best chance up to that point was Winning Colors, and it was. We felt comfortable that she was the best of her gender. One of the quotes in the book is that in horse racing, sex only matters if you're having it. So, but anyhow, we thought she was our best shot to win the whole thing. Now, we used to draw back in the 80s, we used to draw the race on a Wednesday. Now they draw it almost a week out. But on a Tuesday, the representatives from the Mocktoons came to the barn and asked if they could talk to me, and they sat me down. They said, "We want to buy Winning Colors." And they said, "The sheikh wants it to buy it, but here are the conditions. She has to run in his colors. She has to be transferred before the draw, so she's drawn into the race with his ownership. You will train her through the Derby, but as soon as the race is over, we'll take possession, and we're going to give $7 million for her." Well, I said, "Well, how'd you get the $7 million?" Yeah, in the 80s, that was something. And they said that Miss Oceano had sold at auction a Grade 1 champion filly for $7 million, and they felt that Winning Colors was equal in value. Now, here's the hook. How about this? I owned 35% of her with Gene Klein, the owner of the San Diego Chargers. Now, I got a master's degree in education, none of it in math, but I could figure that.
Carry the decimal.
I'm excited. Here comes Gene Klein in a limo as long as a bowling alley. He gets out, he's got an entourage, they got sweatshirts, buttons, caps, Winning Colors this, Winning Colors that. It was like a pep rally at a football game. He says, "Where's the filly? Where's the filly?" I said, "Gene, settle down, come in here. Now, he was hard of hearing, so I took him in the first stall. And I said, "Gene, you won't believe it. The Arabs have offered us $7 million for Winning Colors." He looked at me and he says, "Can you win the Kentucky Derby?" I said, "Yeah, sure, but," and that's all I got out. He said, "I don't like them anyhow. Let's go down and look at the filly." That was the end of that conversation.
Oh my gosh. This is also very poignant. All horses can run a mile and a quarter. Some just do it a little faster.
Takes a little longer for
Takes a
some
little
of them.
longer.
Yeah, it does take a little longer for some of them.
And I know that some people speak from more
I like this one.
experience. Oh, sorry.
One man can train 100 head, but 2 men can't train one.
I think several have learned that
Tell
one.
that to Paul.
I think several trainers have learned this the hard way. You can have a marriage license or a trainer's license. The challenge is to have both at the same time.
That is so true. That is so true. It is a rough sport on the relationships. It is just you got to find somebody like you that you've been around it and your husband's involved. Or I've been blessed to find Lori, who was a judge for 22 years and a prominent quarter horse person. But boy, you know, what happens in those relationships, you take them to the races and boy, all the glit and fun and everything, and it seems so great until you do it 7 days a week and you go leave it, you know, in the dark and come home in the dark, and the intensity of it, and it gets to most relationships. It's really tough to have both.
But Wayne,
I'm an expert on that. I counsel all the young guys.
Wayne obviously didn't start out with, you know, training champions and everything. He was actually escorted out of a sale at Keeneland not once but twice, right?
Well, we better clarify that. What happened was I had trained a really fast mare in Ruidoso, New Mexico, when I had the quarter horses, a really good one. And they sold her to a man named Tom Gentry back in Lexington, who was one of the leading breeders. And he bred that mare to Secretariat. So I was training quarter horses that time, and I told my chief client, I said, I'm going to fly to Keeneland to the summer sale, and I want to buy a filly. If she looks like her mother, and I'd set a world's record with her mother, I said, if she looks like her mother, by Secretariat, I mean, that was a marriage in heaven. And I thought, if she's anything like him, I'm going to buy her. He said, who are you going to buy her for? I said, I'm going to buy her. It doesn't matter. He said, well, buy her for me. So I felt pretty good. Now I go to the sale, and I'm a little more cowboy than I am now. And so I'm waiting for people to ask to see her, and she'd go out and back, and then she had that butt like a fry cook, and that walk like she had it all. So I'm thinking, good. I'm in great shape. I got a rich Texan backing me up. I'm going to get her bought. I go in, and there were reserved seats at that time. So I go down. She's one lot from coming in. They're starting to read her credits.
Tell what year this is.
This is
77.
Okay,
Yeah.
good. In 77. So,
I wasn't there, but I guess.
So I go and I sit down the first row. And before I can even get settled in, the usher comes down and taps me on the shoulder, and he said, Mister, these are reserved seats. He said, you can't sit there. So I get up. He goes up the aisle, and of course I follow him, but now she's in the ring, so I'm halfway up, so I just sit down the one right on the aisle halfway up. He goes all the way out, and he turns around and finds out I didn't follow him. He turns around, comes back to get me, and now I'm bidding. He's got me by the hand, and he's escorting me out the back, and I'm bidding, and guess who it was? It was Terlingua, the mother of Stormcat, the dam of a sire that changed the entire breed for 4 decades.
Do you know that gentleman's claim to fame is that he tried to escort you out of a sale?
Yeah.
I guarantee it. Now, I do find it hysterical that you have had to convince several jockeys to ride certain horses like Gary Stevens on Thunder Gulch.
Yeah, that, you know, if you want to go broke, hang out around the jocks room and get their tips. I mean, They are unbelievable. I should tell it on Gary. He's retired and he's a dear friend. I think he can handle it. But
He's got thick skin. I think you're good.
Gary, I had a filly named Serena Song, and she was unbelievable good. But in her second out, I put Gary Stevens on her, and he wins quite impressively. And his agent's waiting for him in the parking lot. And he said, Gary, that filly was quite impressive for Lukas today. He says, draw a line through her. She'll never win another race. He says, what? He said, she'll never win another race. She won, I think, 13 more grade ones and $3.5 million and produced $28 million worth of foals. But anyhow, having said that, we called him up to ride Thunder Gulch. Now, Thunder Gulch, he was in Hong Kong, I believe, at the time. And he looked it up and he said, I'm not going to fly halfway around the world to ride that one. So I got a hold of Mike Smith and I said, Mike, get a hold of Gary and convince him. Mike had ridden him in Florida and he had won the Fountain of Youth and the Florida Derby. And Mike convinced him to come and ride it. And that was Gary Stevens' second Kentucky Derby for us.
Unbelievable.
Unbelievable horse, by the way. Thunder Gulch might have been as good as there ever was. He did not get the publicity and the credit. Think of this. He won the Fountain of Youth. He won the Florida Derby. He was fourth in the Bluegrass. He won the Kentucky Derby. He was third in the Preakness. He won the Belmont. He went out to California and won the Swaps, came back and won the Haskell, and came back and won the Traverse.
Unbelievable.
If you threw that program out to a prospective owner right now, they'd fire you.
I think my favorite quote in the book is from Jeff. To the world, you may be but one person, but to one person, you may be the world.
That's one of my favorites.
That is
Good
truly
one.
one of my favorites.
He was unbelievable. It's easy to brag on your only son, but he had such a feel for this, and it was so tragic that his career was ended by Tabasco Cat. Actually had Triple Crown prospect who won the Preakness and the Belmont also, but he was so good at organizing and had such a great feel for it. I tell young people, I say, they ask me what it takes to train, and I call it intuitive awareness. It's nothing that you can really put in a book or put on a sheet of paper or even talk to them about it. They have to have that intuitive awareness of what the horse needs, when to push, when to pull, and so forth.
In closing, I'm going to have Wayne read something that's in the book. Would you please read that, Wayne? Because I want to hear it in his voice.
This was on my voicemail on the house telephone. Hi, you have reached D. Wayne. If this pertains to a Kentucky Derby winner, press 1. If this pertains to a Breeders' Cup horse, press 2. If this pertains to a claimer, call Bob Baffert.
Thank you. Wayne, it is always a true pleasure and honor to sit next to you, and we are so grateful to have you here this morning. Ladies and gentlemen, please give Wayne a big round of applause. Thank you.
This gal right here, you might guess through the Triple Crown and the Breeders' Cup Series and everything, I've done a lot of interviews, and I've been, sat down with some really nice people like Bob Costas and Al Michaels and, Howard Cosell and some of the greats. This gal right here is really a rare talent, and Oaklawn is glad and very fortunate to have her. Thank you.